funded Obama Kerr things with kids, what, do you have a ballpark figure in there?
I mean, requirements that the state's going to have to take care of. I mean, I heard a number tossed around about, the federal mandates for health and human services, and it was somewhere around, the liability for Texas is something at like 46% of our budget, and then if you tack on Obamacare adds anywhere between, I think, $4 and $8 billion more dollars. And so you're looking at a health and human services budget that the state has to end up paying for that's something like 48, 49% of the total budget, which frankly is insane, because then you have to figure out how to fund education out of the rest, because for the most part, the major expenditures are the health and human services, education, and then the rest of government. And when you've got, very well organized, as we saw in the last legislative session, education activists going out and saying we need to continue spending more and throwing more and more money harder and harder at the problem for education, which outcomes, we're focused on outcomes. We haven't seen any truly demonstrable increase in outcome of education in the state of Texas. It's just we're expected to continue funding it at a level that's unsustainable.
Okay, we're just going to take one more question because it's almost out of time and we've still got one more thing to do
opt
with.
out of Obamacare, and obviously we didn't. So where does the problem lie on that?
Well, I mean, the opportunity still exists for us too. I'm assuming kind of on a federal issue with Obamacare, we can still hopefully push something through the House and get the Senate to move on it. I don't think it's going to happen. So, I mean, I guess the next step would be that we hope that we have a Congress and a Senate and a president next time around that will make that a priority and make sure that that doesn't fall down and, crush taxpayers and small businesses. I mean, the level of burden that small businesses are going to accept due to Obamacare is staggering. You talk about all the stimulus in the world. That's just about the most destimulating thing that you can do to the American economy.
Well, we still have the Supreme Court to rule on it.
Certainly. And, passing the healthcare compact in Texas is a good step. It doesn't solve the problem with Obamacare, but it's a good step toward at least having more control over how those dollars are spent inside of Texas rather than decided in D.C.
Well, Andrew, I've just got to ask you one more question. South Carolina, back in the 1830s, performed a nullification on a high tariff bill.
Mm-hmm.
What's the chances of us going back and doing some nullifying?
I don't think that the chances for nullification are as viable. I mean, depending on what you mean by nullification.
Obamacare is nullified.
I don't think that that's an option. I think that we have to play it straight and just defeat it. And I think that we can do it. I think that it's as distasteful. I mean, certainly all those Republicans we sent to Congress last time around, some of my friends and work for folks that make political ads, which is kind of an interesting thing. But they had to make basically like two versions of things. One was this person voted for Obamacare, and then the other one was this person voted for the stimulus. And that's pretty much all they had to do to drive their negatives sky high. And I think that Obamacare still carries that type of negative aura around it, as does the president. Anything tied to that presidency it's got some serious liability politically speaking. And I think that if that continues to be as high as it is, we have a good chance to, because you have to remember, politicians aren't necessarily concerned, in Washington especially, with positive outcomes. They're concerned with themselves and playing political games that give them more power. And the more centralized power is, the more corrupt it is. It's been demonstrated over and over. So the more we can disperse that power base, the more free we'll continue to be. So thank you very much for listening to me rant on about things this evening.
Okay, we've got one more thing.
You don't have time, so you have 8:00.
Well, we didn't start until about 7:15, so let me just say this very briefly. We have one and a half other candidates here tonight who are running to defeat Jim Pitts. If we do nothing else this election season, that 67% conservative voter has got to go. And if you don't understand, yeah, come on,
If
Larry.
you're gonna go through that, let's do it the right way.
Well,
Yeah.
you got, you,
Look,
Yeah.
everybody is, so you'll stretch. Can we all move up front? Because I'm worn out today. I've been tromping all day trying to get people to do this. Could you guys all move this way and come up closer? So,
We can hear you fine.
Yeah,
all right, I'm gonna hustle, and if I get too low, just holler. But I want to,
Larry.
you got that on?
Yeah, look, I'm no good with that thing.
Well, it's not rocket science. Here.
And, is that what
Takes and moves the thing?
Hang on,
Okay.
there.
All right, look, thanks. Look, I'll just take a couple of 10 minutes. And I just want to talk for the Tea Party in what we can do and where we are and how we got here. And real quick, what we're going to do moving forward. There's kind of in the Tea Party, anybody who was original person here in the Tea Party years ago, 2-3 years ago? And why did you attend the Tea Party?
Get our country back, Luke.
Yeah, you were worried, weren't you?
Yeah.
You could feel something was wrong. We didn't know what it was. Joyce, what about you? Why did you originally? What woke you up? What got you going on the Tea Party?
I just had a sense that something was not right. And I feel like Harlan and TJ and Linda Dunn and I went to Dallas. They were training to expand the Tea Party around Dallas, and that's how the Ellis County Tea Party got started. And so we all met there. None of us knew each other until we went to the Dallas training center.
Was that before Barack Obama got elected or after?
Oh, that was in '09, so it had to be
After. And did you have, even while George Bush was on, did you, and we were having the election, it was McCain, were you worried then? Did you get, I mean, or was
Well,
it?
I felt like someone other than the people chose the candidate McCain. And that was confirmed by Linda Dunn and somebody else that went to the Republican convention. And there was a group of people who had gone to the convention to vote for somebody else, and they were told to vote for McCain. And so that was a little unsettling, I guess, for.
But somewhere in there, I think
And
probably
think about
everyone
us
that's
all
been here
engaged
and
in
stayed
that
here
convention.
is basically you couldn't put a finger on what was wrong, but you knew that we had a problem. And as time went along, and we had a certain president, and we've had certain things happen, yeah, we'll come back to that. Can we come back to that one? Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Basically, let's run through just recently. I want to focus on the Tea Party. We have people that are focused on the Republican Party. We've had people focus on the past performance. To tell you the truth, I really don't give a rat's behind. I don't see much difference. What I'm concerned about is a particular group of people that sit in this room, the 80 to the 100 that have been here 2 and 3 years, and why is it you're here, and what is it we intend to do? And I have an argument, and I would like to present it in the arena of ideas, and I would like to have your input. But one thing that 3 years into this, anybody here feel like really our economy, our government, our form of government is in better shape now than 2 years, 3 years ago when we met? No, we have, well, let's just run through a few things. We got, just in the last month, we've discovered that we have an Attorney General, the highest officer of the land in this country, who illegally gave thousands of guns to drug runners in an operation called Fast and Furious in an attempt to undermine and sabotage our Second Amendment and your right to own weapons. We know that because we know now our highest lawyer in the land lied under oath to our Congress. We know that. We also know that we have a president and administration. We have emails, we have conversations, lied to us about loans. $537 million, $1.5 billion. Kay, if I gave you $537 million for your business, could you make it last more than 2 years? Oh, you skinflint. $537 million went to Solyndra. And we know that there was direct communication between the White House and the bundler who ran this, and the money is all gone. Immediately after that, in the next couple of weeks, another $250 million, another $350 million were approved for the same solar panel type companies. We have a joint fiscal commission. Republicans have already caved on $300 billion, have agreed to increases in revenue. Is that right? 300 billion. With no corresponding cuts. We'll just agree to raise more revenue. I don't care how you gauge it. The Joint Fiscal Commission is guaranteed that through the inaction of this, we will suppress, depress, and oppress the financial markets because of a non-agreement that was guaranteed because of no movement, nobody willing to make a financial commitment and stand on America's finances.
Is that the super committee you're talking about?
This would be the bipartisan that's supposed to come up with 1.3 trillion in savings.
And that is unconstitutional.
Whatever it is, it's not working.
12 unelected people.
Well, I agree. That's a different day, Joyce. All I'm talking about here
These are
is,
people, these are elected people.
well, but the,
They form this
But the
committee.
committee's
Not to make
unconstitutional.
those
What-
sorts.
Oh, that's true.
don't get sidetracked. Yeah, you're exactly right. But that's a whole different day on shredding of our law of the land. We have Obamacare. I don't have to really do much in there except that it's being implemented every day. The promise of lower costs is gone. 400%, 40 is nice increase in healthcare costs. You knew it would be. Over 4,000 employees and companies in a month. 4,000 companies dropped their employees, all of them, because it's headed to a single payer mandate.
And there's 3 benchmarks that haven't even been met by
Absolutely.
law.
We're not even
So
into the middle of it, but in anticipation, insurance companies cannot afford to carry anybody because they have to insure everybody with preconditions. We can go the list. But this was just ruled by, this week, a conservative federal judge that Obamacare was constitutional, that the federal government has the right, because the legislature has the ability to make laws to demand that you buy something. And in that case, I can demand whatever you buy, what you eat. This was a conservative judge appointed by Ronald Reagan. He is a pillar of the legislative, conservative, judicial community. Go figure. That's why when we say that Obamacare will be repealed, it isn't a given. It should never got past this federal 3-judge panel this week. It did, by conservatives. Executive orders. We have watched in the last 2 months a complete shred of the U.S. Constitution through the judicial and their, not judicial, legislative, unconstitutional acts of our president. 2 in particular. On one executive order, he ordered we would do refi of all housing underwater. Conditions were that you had to be underwater 50% value on your home, you had to be current on your payments, and you could get a 2% loan, and you didn't have to have job verification, you didn't have to have credit check, you didn't have to have, what are those other things used to be called liar loans? In other words, go back to the Affordable Housing Act where we had liar loans. No verification. Fannie and Freddie will give you up to 125% of the fair market value of your home through an executive order. First of all, there's legislation and appropriation. That is a legislative action. House of Representatives only can do that. It was also a complete abrogation and shredding of contractual property right law in this state. These are contracts. This is not King Obama cannot make these kind of laws nor abrogate these kind of contracts. He did. Student loans, there's a $1 trillion bubble in student loans. Through executive order, in the last 2 weeks, he will take a student, let's say you've gone to Yale and Harvard, and you're so highly educated, and you're so smart, and you've gotten tired of Occupy Wall Street, you're still unemployed, you can go to work now with the government. So for 10 years, I will forgive your college loan. You'll be paying on it at 2% during the 10 years you work for the government, then the government will forget your loan. You will end up paying around $21,000 of a $200,000. The problem with that is it's unconstitutional. He cannot make that kind of legislation because you're, again, breaking contractual law. And you're making legislation on appropriation, which is only the House of Representatives. Both of those actions, where I refi homes and I forgive college debt, all those cost money. Losses are incurred. If I take your $300,000 mortgage and I let you rewrite it at 2%, what I had at the 4% loan, the profit I had booked goes away. It goes away, and I book the difference down to the 2%, plus what I forgive and write down and short sale. Who eats that? Who eats that loss? You and me. Fannie and Freddie guarantee 99% of home mortgages in America today. That's you and me. We are the only ones writing home mortgages, you and me. We just ate $167 billion because these guys are so friggin' inept and they're crooked. And not only that, but we paid them $127 million in bonuses because they were so good at stealing our money this year.
And in the
Fannie
past, they contributed to political parties.
Oh, of course.
Now, if they are truly a GSE, a government-sponsored entity, that when I went to college, that supposedly was like your water company. And your water company bills you for your water, and it's self-supporting. And if they need something for capital, they may get something from the municipal entity that they're associated with. But basically, a GSE is supposed to be self-supporting.
Absolutely. Kind of like the post office, but we know it's not.
Yeah. But because it is a government entity, how dare they contribute to any political party, whether it be Republican or that should be
Kind of like elected
question.
Democrats who give to unions, who give to Democrats, who give to... What is that thing called? I forget the third thing. That's called a circle. Well, never mind. All right, so look, these are just a couple things. I'm just running through. I'm sorry to take so darn long, but there's so much that goes on every week in this administration, in this government, that is unconstitutional and steals our money every week. We can move down. Let's just go in. Fine, we'll run through. Not done. How come this is up here? National level. Right? National level. We don't hear anything. Anything. Your representative in Washington, D.C. Do you know, as this went on, this is all done in the last month and a half. Trillions of dollars either vanished, stolen, or abrogated. What did John Boehner say? John Boehner, leader of the House of Representatives, the #1 most powerful Republican in the House of Representatives. What did John Boehner say? Obama, we are keeping an eye on you.
Yeah.
Eye. Don't go there. This is on, let's just walk through Texas, okay? What I'm trying to point out here, and I'll get there, I'm done, okay? Illegal immigration, how many years? Honestly, have we talked about illegal immigration? How many years? So we've been together 3 years, and every year, when we started, it was worse. It's kind of died. You know why? Because Republicans don't talk about it. If you'll look at the last census between 2000 and 2010, the Hispanic population in the state increased 37.6%. In the I-35 corridor from Austin to here, in the last 10 years, the I-35 corridor increased in Hispanic population 37%. All other groups stayed flat. This month, If you'll show me your K-12, particularly your grades 1 through 8, I will show you your future. This month, 50.2% of all elementary students are Hispanic. This month. First time they were 49.8 last year, but if you'll show me those grades, I will show you your future. If we don't have, I don't give a rat's behind, if it's federal or state, but they will not close our border, you don't have a state, and you don't have a country. It is a matter of time. It could be Chinese. Our neighbors happen to be Hispanic. But it could be Chinese, and I'd be eating a lot more sushi, right? Obamacare, look, there are mandates that are coming down that are not even accounted for in our budgets. There are multi-billion-dollar mandates that are pushed down from Obamacare. And one of the things, did you know that this last year, one of the reasons we just had a property hike in Ellis County, from the county, is they were gifted by the federal government 56 dams. Now you go, well, that's the thing, right? We can go shoot beaver again. 56 dams that used to be taken care of by BLM or some federal land. They were created in the 1860s through the 1950s for water land management, flood control. Federal government had them under federal programs and they were paid for. Now the maintenance of and the ownership of, which means future expenditures, have been handed from the federal government to the state of Texas. This quietly goes on all the time. What we don't want to talk about in Austin, they talk about balancing the budget, is they have crushing Obamacare, unfunded mandates coming down that belong to the state. Medicare, Medicaid that the federal government is bailing on that will be paid for and unfunded by the states. We have, not to mention, EPA, go through the list. They know that we are broke. We have somewhere, and they don't know because they're off books. They're allowed to be when they're pension funds and they're unfunded, when they're mandates but they're not this year's mandates, but they know they're due in 2013, they run them off books. In estimates, you can read anywhere from 41 billion to 250 billion. We are the best state in the union. Some states are literally broke and they know it. If you want to have, and when you want to talk about federal oppression, and you want to talk about our own legislature and our own Republicans who are in charge of the governor, the Senate, and the House. Does that ring a bell when George Washington had those for a couple of years, and or George Bush, or Washington maybe too, and we didn't do anything? What happens here? Do you know the lies we're told here? Do you know why the TSA bill, which we all wanted to see without a problem with this, you know what really happened to it? They passed it from committee to committee to committee to committee until nobody got blamed for it. None of the Republicans. And it died. So we ran out of time and it died. It wasn't that they ever wanted to take a vote or that they ever wanted to really get it out or Republicans will ever put it out for a vote. It was a game to show you we're going to never meant to go anywhere because it died in committee because it got shuffled around on purpose. This is our state. Now, what else do we have there? I'm sorry. If we hang the federal level, while we have literally our money being devalued, we have people burning down cities, we have a depression. You know, the definition of recession is when my neighbor loses his job. The definition of depression is when I lose mine. We've had a depression in this country, and it is not getting any better. We have literally, we went through the list, I'm not going to repeat it. During that time, our representative has been there 28 years. I am not implying here that he is not a good person. What I'm implying here is something else. He introduced the internet gambling prohibition, Poker Consumer Protection Strengthening, whatever Oogie is, Act of 2011. Do you know what this really does? Legalizes internet poker playing. You would think from reading this that it's, no. It codifies and legalizes interstate, intrastate in the United States internet poker. Our friend, Mr. Barton, only made rules so that it's controlled. But because we can't control what happens in the Cayman Islands, it's not international. I don't know if any of you noticed or not, but I can get an email from somebody in Beijing this afternoon. So what this was is the most important thing on his mind was an internet poker law.
Good for his private banking.
Have you heard anybody introduce a law in the last year about repealing Obamacare? Have you heard anybody? You know why? Because the Republicans, and I'm not talking about Democrats because they're despicable. So I'm talking about people that are supposed to have our genre, our heart, our feelings, our direction. They won't bring up, they like parts of it. We're not going to get a repeal of Obamacare because there are parts of it that they like. They're only going to defund some of the things they don't like and leave it on the books. Now, I have also heard and been in meetings face to face, so this is not heresy, this is from me to you. Now, I don't know how you feel about the Constitution, but I have heard this person state specifically to a group that he believes our Constitution is a living and breathing document. Now, normally I would associate that with John Kerr, that side of the aisle. Now, I'm sure he meant something different than the other side of me. What I'm trying to say here, just a second. Let's go to the state. While we have our Representative Jim Pitts, been there over 20 years, he's a Republican. You can ask anybody in the State Board of Education, you can ask anybody, Jim Pitts is a Republican, he is a good man. He's a good man in the community. He is the most powerful man in the state of Texas because he is chairman of the Appropriations Committee. Every dollar that gets spent in this state goes through his committee. Every dollar that comes in goes through this committee. This man will never be taken out of office until he wants to leave because he runs the money. Ask anybody. What they have told us when we bounced is, and I think you heard it from Mr. Kerr, the budget has not been balanced. We only have things off budget and kicked down the road. We have billions of dollars of unfunded programs that they know are off book that will come due. Most of them are what other states have. State and pension funds for teachers, state employees, billions of dollars. But because they don't have to show it, they can just now. How are they going to budget that? How are they going to budget that in the future? Do you know that our representative, for over 10 years, has expressed his affinity and affection to legalize gambling? Are any of you here, I'm not asking if you gamble, it's none of my business. How many of you really think gambling is good for a state? Well, me neither. Over 10 years, our representative has favored gambling. Not only that, with this last session, he refused to sign the Taxpayers' Pledge, which was a conservative document people signed who would promise to fight any tax increases or fight any suggestion of tax increases as a way to pay our debt. He refused to sign that. I'm not making gossip up here, but I will tell you, this next session, it is already in the bag. Not to mention, you heard from Mr. Kerr, and I believe before that you heard, our Republicans are not conservative. This is a game, and they are not conservative, and we don't have any but 5 or 6. Brian Birdwell is an excellent senator because he's new and he's one of you, and he went conservative. But if we don't send him, can you bring that back one more time? Some help. They eventually get co-opted and kind of like, I don't know, I'm old enough, I was a Star Trek fan. If you remember the Borg, they just get assimilated. Need to send him some help because in the next session, I will guarantee They are going to give you a choice because the budget will be in such severe deficit. You're going to have the choice between an income tax or legalized gambling. And of course, because you hate an income tax, the only way we're going to budget is to legalize gambling. Did you know that Jim Pitts, John, is a lobbyist for gambling businesses? Did you know that? Did you know that when Joe Barton was working on this law on internet poker, his biggest sponsor was a casino in Oklahoma? Did you know that? Did you know that Joe Strauss, who is the, yes, thank you, his dad runs a racetrack. Now, what do you think the odds are that somebody's going to eventually legalize gambling? Pretty good. What I'm asking, I'll wrap this up. I am not saying either of these guys are bad people. I don't believe anybody, maybe Michael Moore, I gotta make an exception somewhere. I don't believe anybody is a bad person. They are bad representatives.
Amen.
That's all I'm saying. And the problem here is endemic. It's kind of like getting a spore in a colony of bees and they mysteriously die. And we don't know what the spore is. What's happening here to the Republican Party is it is not you. It doesn't represent you. You are here in this room because you believe in things called the Constitution and small government, less taxes, get out of my life. And it doesn't matter if we take Republican or Democrat, we're moving in the same direction, one at rocket speed because he's a Marxist, and one is crawl along, but we're still moving that way. When was the last time we just really cut down the size of federal government? So what I'm asking is, as Tea Party members, I'm trying to make the argument of leadership. And I want you to think about it. I don't want to change anything, but it looks to me like the only thing between probably pretty much all of us Sunday being socialists at the least, the Marxists at the most, or Texas being a republic, but we're held slaves to debt, which is what it is, you're not free, is the Tea Party. If you don't have an organization like the Tea Party that will fight. It's sad, but the first party, the first people we have to defeat are Republicans so we can get at Democrats. They want to stay where they are. I don't believe they're bad people. They have lost sight of big government is not the God, and it is not the answer. Capitalism is the only system that has ever lifted mankind out of poverty. Never centralized government at all in the same. We're watching Europe today. Europe will fold and implode, and we're right behind unless we change this. So what I'm asking you, and I'm trying to get leadership up. They tell me I'm an idiot, and I probably am, but I want you to think about it because we need your input, because you're it. I would say that this room of 35 or 50 or 80 people that come all the time need to take a vote where we want. I'm saying that the Tea Party has evolved. We started as a group that we wanted to stop, but we didn't want to sponsor, we didn't want to be involved, we wanted to be an educational group. I agree with that wholeheartedly. The problem is that's an 80, 50, 100-year project. We have had liberals, communists, whatever, pushing us this way for well over 100 years. Immediately, the problem is, how? Well, I've had this, and so have you. You get bombarded every week. Information, emails. There are some of you, you know, Cloud and Pivot. You know the theory. If you don't, look them up on web. Go get a small book. The theory is, it's been here since the 60s, but really since the 1800s. I will overwhelm the system. I will overwhelm the system, and when I create chaos, the system ceases to function. It folds. It is a radical communist, of which Barack Obama knows very well. He taught it at college in Chicago. Okay? He is an expert at chaos. That's what a neighborhood organizer, that's what do we call community? That's what that is about. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. So what I'm saying is, I think the only thing here between us and just plain folding or chaos is the Tea Party. But I think that we have to focus. The reason that we're down here to 30 people, 50, when we should have, in a year like this, before this coming election, and given what we have, we should have 2,500. Your neighbors are worried. Do you know of any of your relatives or neighbors who don't express concern about our spending and where we're headed and what our country, what shape we're in? Honestly. Now and then you'll run into, what are those extinct birds, dodos? You'll run into one who doesn't want to hear. And they don't want to face it, so don't talk to me. I'm okay with that. You're busy saving their life and they don't know. What I'm asking you as Tea Party members, what direction to be relevant? If you're going to expect the Republicans, and it is nothing personal, I'm not talking here about the actual understanding of where we are. To the Republicans, it is a power struggle only. Now and then we go over here and we're too liberal, and the pendulum of social justice runs back to the Republicans, and they fully expect to have all the power because we'll wake up and give it to them. Tea Party, what they're trying to do at this very moment is make the Tea Party absolutely irrelevant. They will keep you around through 2012 because they need you and you and you. They need your vote. They don't want you to leave the ring, but after 2012, they hope you go away. Now, it's my contention that the Tea Party goes away after 2012. When was the I'm a Republican precinct chair. And I was originally under the belief that we kind of need to go under the radar and reform, but I have never once been to a Republican Party meeting, not even county, not even the state convention, where the primary focus of our meeting was to talk about Constitution or freedom or liberty. Never. Our conversation is about the party. Even when I went to the state convention last year, and I sat in on a platform committee, you know, if any of you don't know, that's kind of where you write your proposal for the next year. Here's what we stand for. There wasn't anything in that platform that the Texas Republican Party under Rick Perry carried out. They were against illegal immigration. They were against abortion. Go down a list. And what was written in that is entirely removed from how we do law, how we do governance. Again, I'm not out to take out Republicans, but I think the only thing that will correct this leaning is a group of people here who think a little more. What I'm asking is, think about it. But what do we need? We're either going to be relevant or we're not going to be relevant. And it won't be through inaction. I believe you need to get in. If it were me, and this is the argument I make to the Tea Party, and they have questions, so I'm leaving it up to you. I think the only way that you get your voice is I believe that we take and focus like a laser beam. You ever remember Star Wars? You guys, you were young enough to do Star Wars, and they had the Death Star, and you know, all the ships combined, and the beam came together, and we just blew up planets. We didn't take out like spaceships. We just took out planets, whole civilization. You concentrated your energy and you focused. I think the only way that we can make a difference, and I think this is true of all Tea Parties, because I know them from Idaho and Montana to here, which is God bless America, the heart of America. That you have the same people for 3 years fighting the same battle, and they're just getting friggin' tired. And other people, I believe that we have to focus with something. And to me, that focus is, I take somebody that, and I'm not advocating, I like all people running for office. I'm just saying, pick somebody. Get in there someplace. And if you could take Joe Barton, he's ready to retire. He's been there 28 years. He will never miss a paycheck nor health care. They voted themselves the finest in the world. Full retirement on both. Nothing against Joe, but he's in the rocking chair. You do the job. I trust you more than Joe Barton. I do. If you take Mr. Pitts, he's been there over 20 years. How a person can go and be a state legislator, let's say a senator or a representative. Do you know what the requirements are? You got to be able to go once every other year to Austin for 60 or maybe 120 or 140 or 160 days. And so you drop your life, if you're in a business, if you got a job, or you got to be able to lift out of it for 60 to 160 days. We have a special session. Come back to your work, go back to work like you were gone for 6 months or 3 months. And then you work in the interim all year long, answering phone calls like Mr. Birdwell, Senator Birdwell, seeing constituents, giving speeches, traveling around your district, and all of that for $7,000 a year. Gee whiz, I wish I could get a job like that. And I'm saying, who does that? People who are either independently wealthy or they have partnerships or business arrangements where they can continue to make a living. It is not set up. I would prefer to send you a regular citizen, and I would trust your judgment. You know why? Because if you screw me with some law, you have to come back and live under it. So if you screw me, eventually you screw you, but when you're there 20 and 30 years, you don't have to live under the things I passed on to citizens. So if we're going to change this, it's the thought process. It is the theory of how we do governments that have to change. Our republic is right, the current form is wrong. I say, get behind somebody. And when there are candidates, they're clear. I advocate, you say, Tea Party, this is a Tea Party person, and we approve of this person, we're behind him 100%. Now, that said, you could say, all right, some of these candidates have never run before, they don't know how to do it. It was never meant to be the forte of professional politician. It was meant to be farmers, ranchers, grocers, druggists, moms, us. It is not the realm of professional. That's how we get 2,700 page laws. That's how you have a 7 million page. Keith, how big is a tax code for there? 7 million pages? Nobody can understand it. I want you, if you write a 20-page bill, you know what? You and I can read it. And I say, Tea Party, if we're going to be relevant, we need to get in the game, we need to back a candidate, we need to pick them, and we need to focus. If you can spank the Republican Party by sending a candidate of your choice that will represent what you do, then the next time the Tea Party says no more taxes, you will get a voice. But I say that if we continue, and I agree with our mission to teach and to instruct about the Constitution, but if you don't produce somewhere a winner, you will not have a voice in the game after 2012. Please, think about it. I would like to have some input from some of you next month. And what I would ask in the meantime, what I would ask is bring one other person. This is the time to get out of our comfort zone. In America right now, if every one of us don't get out of our comfort zone, it's not missionary work. This is our republic. The only people likely to really put their foot in and save it are people like us in this room. It isn't easy and it's not comfortable. And you know, you may feel embarrassed about talking to people about Constitution. I've run into people who are professional people and you say, are you serious? Are you voting for all 10 of those amendments? And they go, oh, whatever. These are professional. I mean, okay? The way that I know that we have to change something in Texas, I want you to look. I want you to think about it. We cannot do business. This is the ballot to vote for those last 10 amendments. This ballot has 3 provisions in here that guarantee debt in perpetuity. And for those, any of those here from Alma, that means forever. In perpetuity, you are guaranteed in 3 of these amendments a perpetual debt. Who would do that? When I was a kid, I went to a movie and they had a perpetual motion machine. It was a good deal. Perpetual debt is bad. It was in here in fine print and no time to review because everybody was for it, right? All right, one last thing. We have this right here, which is, I love this one. The notice of required identification for future elections. You guys remember you got this? You got this at the poll when you went, because you went to the primary? And so you have, we're so sorry, but we're going to institute some form of ID, and they are these kinds of things are all legal ID, and so you can come with most anything except your grade school report. And so now we're going to do something good. We are going to require ID. I love that. And I love the fact that it's written, the same thing, all in Spanish. Now, we don't require a lot to be a citizen, a legal citizen of the United States, except there are about three things. That you understand our history. You pass a small civic test. That you understand our Constitution, Bill, you correct me if I'm wrong. And not a comprehensive. And the third one is,
Speak English.
what is that third one?
Be able to
I
read
forget
and
that
speak
third one. What is that third one? Damn.
Be able to read and speak English.
I know, I'm giving you a parrot. It's English. Why do we in Texas do this in Spanish? Because we don't have politicians who get it. I think we should change it. Think about it next month, just real short. I need your input. As I'm pushing the Tea Party to do something in Ellis County, something we don't normally do, we participate. And I believe we participate or we die. And I need your input. So it'll be a big change.
Before you leave, please visit with the two candidates who are running against Jim Pitts. Like I said when I started, the man has got to go. He has a 67% conservative voting record. Those candidates are Linda Bounds, who's right here, and TJ Fabi, I think he's still out there. We also have a candidate here who is running against Joe Barton. His name is Frank Kuchar. He's out there with a flag shirt on. So please stop and visit with them, or pick up some of their literature, or look them up on the web or something, so you can be more informed. And if anybody wants some of these push cards and maybe just hand them to a neighbor sometime, please feel free to take some of these. That's what we've got them for. Thank you for coming. See you in December.
Thank you very much. Did we wear you out, huh?
I know, it was a little bit longer than
Next time we'll throw in sandwiches.
Yes.